Hello world, Shelly here, and it's time for your Friday foundation fix, where you can get your fix of foundation reviews in between foundation fests. And today we are checking out from Revolution or Makeup Revolution. You know, I don't know what their name is anymore. They just use the word Revolution, but then they're Makeup Revolution, but then they're Revolution Beauty. I don't know, what do you call them? I'm going to go with Makeup Revolution. We are checking out their new Conceal and Hydrate foundation. I have also got the concealer. I have this in shade F3. This retails for $12 for 0.7 fluid ounces of product. Now, if you compare that to the typical fluid ounce, this is a $17 foundation. So that's a little up there on the drugstore pricing side of the fence. It does come in 16. Update, it's actually 50 different shades, 50. Ulta was only carrying 16 at the time I bought this, but if you check out the Makeup Revolution website, there are 50 different shades in both the foundation and the concealer. Different shades, it's currently getting about 4 out of 5 stars on Ulta's website, and let's take a look at some of their claims. It is specially formulated to suit every skin type and tone, but is particularly beneficial for dry skin. With hyaluronic acid, it offers all-day radiance and glow without settling into fine lines or clinging to dry patches. Housed in a luxe glass bottle with a new pump applicator for added control, this foundation offers medium to full coverage. Now they got me curious. Why is that new? What's new about it? I don't know. It just looks like a pump to me. I don't know if I'd call it luxe. It is frosted glass, it looks like. Yeah, that's kind of nice. All right. So we're going to try this out, and I've got really high hopes because I've got their previous Fast Base Stick, which is one of my favorite foundations of life. I've got that in 5 different shades, so I can wear it any time of the year. I can basically wear F1, F3, F4, and F5, depending on the time of year in their previous formulations. So I picked F3 because F4 and F5 are more like if I'm self-tanning. I have like the smidgiest, tiniest bit of color, but really not. I'm not quite as pale as my winter pale, but I'm close to it. So I went with F3. F2 has a little bit more of a yellow undertone in their previous formulas. That appears to be the same here, but they also go much lighter than the number 1. So in this Conceal and Hydrate formula, they go all the way down to shade F0.2. There's also F1. So they are going below 1 in order to address some lighter shades, which whenever they do that, it always makes me think like somebody back in the original marketing plan never thought they'd go any lighter, and then they did. So good thing for decimals. But let's take a look at this F3 shade swatched against a few others in my collection. Oh yes, say it with me now. On Fridays, we swatch. First up is today's foundation, the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Foundation in shade F3. Next, I've got also from Makeup Revolution, the Conceal and Define Foundation, also in shade F3. Slightly different undertones, just about the same lightness to darkness. Third up is the CoverGirl True Blend Matte Made in shade L20. Fourth, I've got the CYO Life Proof in shade 101. And last up, I've got the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow in shade 201. I am starting out with a 44-year-old face. I have some sun damage. I like to cover up. I get larger pores right around here. I do have deeper smile lines, forehead lines. Foundation likes to settle into them. Some texture between my eyebrows, and this is the more textured side of my face. So those are the things I am combating. I have already done cleansing, moisturizing, and sunscreen, and I have primed with the CoverGirl True Blend Base Business Pore Minimizing Primer. Let me tell you, hoorah for having a primer that minimizes pores that doesn't dry out dry skin. It's kind of amazing. It's not your typical putty kind of pore minimizing primer that you press into the skin. I still love the Revlon pore minimizing for that. I'm not wearing that today, but it really does sort of minimize the appearance of your pores, but not in a way that dehydrates your skin, because typically pore minimizing stuff is made for oily skin people, and then dry skin people, it's like, stay away. But no, this one works really well. I've been playing with it for a few weeks now. And side note, while I'm just on all kinds of tangents here, my nail polish is this stuff right here. It's probably not going to come off as cool on camera, but the glitter is out of control. It is just so pretty. It is just like out of control, shimmery, shiny, pretty. You could use it as a top coat. I just did 2 coats straight onto my nails, and holy cow, loving, loving. This is the shade Lady Millionaire. Don't I wish? I will use a sponge dampened on one side of my face. This is the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. And the other side I will use a brush. This is the e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush. We'll see if there's a preference one way or the other. This is blending out really easily with the sponge. This is a dimethicone-based foundation. Glycerin is very high up on the ingredient list, which is usually a nice hydrating, moisturizing type of an ingredient. I don't notice any scent when applying this, and the ingredients do not indicate any added fragrance, so that is good. I think this shade is probably maybe a smidge light for me this time of year, but I will make it work with some bronzer. Let's take a look at how the brush side goes. I think we're getting a nice light medium coverage with either application method. I feel like with the brush, I'm seeing a little bit more of brush strokes and it looks just a little bit more heavy on the skin. So I think I am going to try and build this up just a little bit where I've got more sunspots and redness that I want to cancel out. But I'm going to use the sponge, and I'm going to take the sponge and sort of try to even out the areas that the brush made a little bit streaky. Yeah, I definitely prefer the sponge with this one. It just looks much more natural and less caked on with the sponge. I'm going to apply the concealer before I zoom you guys in. This retails for $10 for 0.45 fluid ounces of product. That seems even a little bit more than normal. That seems like a good amount of product. Suitable for everyone, lightweight finish, boost of moisture, all-day hydration. It's got hyaluronic acid as well. Covers blemishes, even skin tone, counteracts dark circles, drenches the skin with moisture. That's a little dramatic. Designed for drier skin, the sheer satin finish won't settle into fine lines. Cruelty-free. Did I mention that? Makeup Revolution is cruelty-free. So, let's try this. I got this in the shade C3, the equivalent foundation shade. We have a very large doe foot applicator. Little dark. I usually go for slightly brightening. I could probably go a shade lighter in this concealer. Yes, I finally dampened a mini sponge. There you go, guys. All you people that have like trauma when I use a large sponge around my eyes. Aside from the fuzzy that's stuck to the side of my face, that blended out nicely with the sponge. Let's try a brush for comparison. This is the Sephora Pro number 71 concealer brush. I love it because it's curved and it gets right into that trough right there. It's such a good brush. It blended out fine with the brush, but again, kind of like the foundation, I think I like the finish with a sponge better. All right, let's take a look up close. I think the foundation does give very solid medium coverage. I don't know if I would want to build it up any higher than it is now because I feel like I'm starting to be able to see makeup on my skin and any more product, and I think it would look a little bit heavy. It does have a slightly dewy finish to it. It is not settling into lines at this point. It is not accentuating pores or settling into them. I have a little bit of dry skin on my nose, and it is not really clinging to it, but it's not completely hiding it either. The concealer is not settling into lines at this point. I wish it would do a little bit more to smooth out my lines because I can kind of see all of them. I want some camouflaging in addition to the coverage. I think it is a nice light medium coverage in terms of the concealer. Everything on my forehead looks nice as far as the foundation goes. It's not really clinging to the texture in between my eyebrows, but that texture is still visible. And on my forehead, I feel like I can see a lot of my micro lines that sometimes some foundations will blur them a little bit better. But overall, I think it looks nice. I have a little bit of redness that I can still see coming through on my cheeks, so I don't think I'm quite at a full coverage where I am right now, but a solid medium, I would say. Let's take a look at the time. It is 12:05. I'm going to go put the rest of my face on. I will be right back. Okay, so I did end up setting this with powder. I used one of my new favorite loose powders, CoverGirl True Blend Minerals. This is the translucent powder. The foundation stayed pretty tacky, and I was going to use powder products on top, so I set it very, very lightly. It took well to setting, but I just feel like this particular formula is just a little heavier sitting on top of the skin than some of their previous foundation formulas. It doesn't feel heavy on the skin. It feels average to slightly lightweight in terms of weight. Like, I don't feel the makeup on my skin. It's not like wearing nothing at all, but I don't actively feel it. But it does look, I think it looks nicer at a distance than it looks up close at this point right now. Maybe it will all warm up, melt down, settle in. I did not use any setting spray, and everything seemed to blend just fine. So I like how it looks. Like, I'm looking in the monitor right now. I like how it looks at a distance. Up close, I can just, in certain spots, I can see it on top of the skin, especially my nose and sort of, back toward my hairline on my cheeks. So, we'll see. I've got a couple mini reviews for you. First off, let's just go through what I've got on my face. You thought I forgot about her. I didn't forget about her. She's still here. L'Oreal True Match Lumi Bronzits. I love this bronzer, you guys. It's just so pretty. Blushes, e.l.f. I'm just stuck on this stuff. I can't stop. Primer infused blush in Always Rosy. Highlight is the CoverGirl Super Stunner. Tried out some new stuff for my eyeballs from Milani. This is the Rouge. No. They don't put the name of the palette on the palette, and then I don't remember the name of it, and then I have to go in the garbage and get the box. Gilded Violet. So I tried the Gilded Rouge in a previous video, and I really, really liked it. This one, save your money, guys. The color story is pretty basic. It is nice to have some highlights and some eye products all in one palette for, say, travel, for example. But the mattes were fine. The shimmers are really weak, and, I think this look came out okay, but I would save your money. If you want something in this color scheme, in this price range, go with something like ColourPop. This one, not so much, even when it's upside down. I also tried from Milani their Violet Lash Primer, and I actually really like it. I think it did a really nice job of maintaining separation of lashes. I am trying a new mascara. I swear it was here. Here we go. Number 7. I picked this up while I was in Ireland, but you can get this here too. It is the Full 360 from Number 7. When I asked you guys what I should get when I go overseas, because the boot stores have just whole entire walls of Number 7 products, you said you have to get this mascara. So I did. I like it. It's very lengthening, not as volumizing as I tend to prefer, but it gives really, really nice length. And the length is pretty extreme. I mean, if I look up this way, like, I can catch my lashes on my eyebrows. So that's pretty good. That's pretty lengthening. So thumbs up on the mascara. Was anything else new? I don't think so, but my lip is the Revlon Ultra HD. This is the vinyl version, and the shade, you know what's coming. Why is all this print gotta be so small, you guys? Birthday Suit. There you have it. I'll be back in a little bit with a daylight check-in, and I'll come back at the end of the night, give you guys my final thoughts. Hey, it has been almost 6 hours, like 5.5, 6 hours, and here we are outside. Maybe this really isn't too light for me. I think the shade match ends up being okay. You know, this is a little darker than like my upper arms, which don't see sunlight all that much, but I am way shiny, like way shiny, you guys, to the point where I was gonna do a little Instagram story in my car, and I was like, oh, this looks a little bit yikes. I think no, I don't think it oxidized. I don't think so. But very, very shiny. Like, I kind of feel greasy, which is kind of a bummer because I really don't get greasy. But I think the color match is good, and it's a beautiful day out here. That is for sure. But let me step out of got a tree blocking the sun right here, and we'll get some daylight, or try to anyway. There's full sun. I really can't look at the camera because it's too bright. But there you have it. I'll be back tonight. We will wrap this one up. 11:34 p.m. Let's take a look at how the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Foundation and Concealer held up. It's been about 11 hours now. Let's just zoom right in and get into this. So, I'm not a big fan of how this is breaking down. I'm losing coverage on my chin, losing coverage around my mouth. It's doing that cake up, bunch up kind of a thing. I really don't like how it's breaking apart along my smile lines, because as those get more visible, I feel like it ages me, and that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. On my nose, I'm starting to get polka dot pores. It definitely caked up around my nostrils. Blush, bronzer, highlight are still intact, but the textured side of my face looks pretty doggone textured. When we get to the concealer, I think most of the coverage has just kind of disappeared, although I don't think my eyes under the under eye area are dry, which is nice. So I do think it is a hydrating sort of a concealer. It didn't settle into lines. I think what I'm seeing toward the bottom where it's settled into like the finest micro lines, I think that's actually the foundation doing that. So a little bit better luck with the concealer. The area between my eyebrows, most of the coverage is gone. My forehead still looks okay in terms of maintenance of bronzer, but I feel like all of my micro wrinkles are still visible as they were a bit when we first started out. All throughout the day, every time I've seen this in the mirror, I've thought, it looks a lot better at a distance than it does close up. And I think even now, looking at it in the monitor, it looks a lot better in the monitor than it does close up. Now, the zoomed in will not lie, but at a distance, I'm talking the monitor I'm looking in to see what's going on here, it looks okay. But up close, it's really kind of a hot mess. Like, I didn't wear sunglasses or anything today, and I feel like it's really a disaster on my nose. Also, the type of dewiness that this finish is borders on greasy. I'm not an oily skinned person, and the fact if I ever feel like I'm greasy, it's almost a miracle, because it's really hard to pull that off on this face and this body chemistry. But I do feel like this kind of crosses that line. It's a little too dewy. It gives me that like sweaty, greasy look, and I'm not a big fan of that sweaty, greasy look. That's not what I'm going for. I like a dewy look, but not when it crosses that line. So it's kind of a bummer, because I really enjoyed the previous two foundation launches that they had. That said, I don't think this is a bust. I think you have to really want a dewy complexion, number one. I don't think it's as hydrating as they say it is. I'm going to say it's not drying, because I don't feel like I have drag lines or anything going on, but I can see too much. Like, my skin's not plumped. Like, I want my skin to be plumped. Like, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation, that gives that, like, plump appearance to the skin. This, it didn't plump my wrinkles away. You know what I'm saying? And I want my wrinkles to be plumped away, because these ones are tiny. There's very, very little going on up here. Just need a little bit of help, and I don't think it helped me that much. So the hydration, it's enough to stave off dry skin, but I don't feel like it went that extra mile as something that has hydrate in the name, I would expect. But if you have dry skin, I think it's fine. I don't think it's drying. If you have fine lines and wrinkles, it did settle into my deepest chin line. It either settled or broke apart on either of my smile lines, did not settle into my forehead line, so it's like meh, a little bit iffy on that. Didn't do the best job with smoothing of pores or texture, kind of a average-ish on that. I'm sad. I wanted to love this one. Now, I do think this is probably a better mixer. Like, if you have a more matte foundation that needs a little bit of help in the hydration category, this could help. I'll try it that way. But if I had to give a grade to the Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Foundation for dry and maturing skin, I'm going to give it a really high C+, because I just feel like it's not that far above average. I'm just... I mean, it's wearable. Don't get me wrong. If you can try a sample, which I know is hard because I don't think Ulta gives samples of drugstore stuff. But they do accept returns if you don't like it. So, now let's talk about the concealer for a second. A little bit better, I think, than the foundation, especially for dry, crepey under eyes. Coverage did not last all that long. 11 hours isn't, the super longest day on the planet. I am going to go just a straight up B on the concealer. There you have it. C+ on the foundation, a B on the concealer. That's my first take on these guys. As always, if I have any changes to report, I will report them in a future foundation follow-up video. Generally speaking, things rarely change in any significant way, but I will keep you posted if I manage to get them working any better than I had them working today. If you would like to recommend a foundation for me to check out, leave it in the comments down below. If you haven't checked out my spreadsheet yet, it's at geekoutofwater.com. Click the Foundation Fest link. I've got a ranked, sortable, searchable spreadsheet of over 130 different foundation reviews with all the data: drying, hydrating, vegan, cruelty-free, SPF, yada yada, smoothing, blurring, you name it, it's on there. You can search it. You can search high-end, you can search drugstore. There are printable lists of my top 10s in a variety of categories. Check that out on my website. And as always, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. Come back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time for new videos. And I appreciate your time. I hope you guys all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.